Now, it's been a little while since we've had to actually find a vertex and work through these because we've been getting them from Vertex Form lately. So, what we're going to do here, just a reminder, if I have to find my vertex via our mini formula, that's the one I'm going to be using. This negative b over 2a that we're doing. So, just as a reminder again, when you're trying to find these values within these, what we're going to do, our a value is always the number in front of x squared. If I don't see one, it's 1. My b value is always the number that's in front of x. So, when I go to figure this out, so negative b, or negative 16 in this case, over 2a. And then I'm just going to go ahead and simplify that to get my x value. Now, I still am going to have to figure out why. Because I know I could yank it from the equation in the, in the table, but I want to make sure I've done it right. So when I go to find y, I'm just going to take the equation they have for me here, and every time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with the x value. So in this case, I've got a couple of places that I'm going to put that in. So same equation, just replace the x's with the x value that I had. Now, if at this point you want to use the calculator and plug it in to kind of get you a little bit of assistance, that's fine. So I could punch this in. Some of you are ahead of me already. Quick. Make sure I typed everything in right. Yep. Okay. All that for negative 1. Okay, so it asked me up here at the top, name the vertex. Okay, my vertex I just found. It's negative 4, negative 1. And I can go ahead, I can put that point in. So then when I'm supposed to sketch the graph of the function, that's when I typically am going to end up going to my chart. And the x and y value I just found, being my vertex, is going to go in the middle. So at this point, I can go to my y equals, and I can type my equation in. And then go ahead again and hit second graph. But I need this negative 4 to be in the middle. And it also lets me see, oh, okay, I got my y value right. It's negative 4, negative 1. And I'm just going to take the two values that are above and below it. So for instance, at negative 6, my y value is 7. At negative 5, my value is 1. And if I've done this right, my y values should end up being symmetrical. Or in other words, as I move away from my vertex, my y values should be the same going each direction. And they are. So once I have that, now I can just plot the points. So negative 6, 7 means I'd go left 6 and up 7, put a dot. Left 5, because my x is negative, and up 1. I already have my vertex. Left 3 and up 1. And left 2 and up 7. And again, my points should be symmetrical. They should make kind of a V shape if I've done this right. And then I just connect the dots, kind of putting a curve in there. And I'm ready to go. So it's a process. And when you're going along on the quiz, I'm going to be very specifically looking for points. So if you just sit there and put it on the graphing calculator and do one of these, I'm going to check, and if your points don't match up, I'm going to mark it. So You do have to do some of the work with it, okay, to make sure that things are going well. All right, let's hit up number 2.
You don't go min or max on there?
Not on this specific section. There will be some where I'm asking for a min or max. Good question. So, on number 2, same idea going here. Okay. My A value is -2. My B value is -8. Again, I'm just taking the numbers in front of x squared for A and in front of x for B. And then I just start kind of working through my process. Now, what happens when I do -b and my B is already negative? It's positive because it's -8. It's the opposite. So it's +8 on top now over 2 times A. So 8 over -4 is -2. And that's my x value for my vertex. Now again, if I'm feeling lucky, I could go ahead and graph this right now and just start writing the chart. But I myself know I tend to make some little sloppy errors at times, so I just want to make sure. So y equals, I'm going to start copying this. And again, every time I see an x, I'm going to replace it with what's in the x. Yeah, it's your call when you get to this point. Well, you're going to have to know what your x value is sooner or later somehow on these, because they're not in vertex form. Because otherwise it could be tricky to figure out where your vertex is unless you're going to do a lot of searching in the table option here. So replace the x with -2. And again, if I want, and I choose to this time, let me move my calculator out of the way here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type this in. Oops, once I get out of my table mode. Yeah, you can. If you move up and down enough to figure out where that center point is or that vertex, you could do it straight from a table.
So we don't have to do it.
Right. As long as you're answering the questions I have above, yep, you can do it that way if you wanted to. Okay, let me make sure I get this typed in right. Yes. So my y value is +1. So I'm like, all right. I've got my vertex, and again, I've got to write that down. That's being asked for. And I know my vertex is in the middle. And again, at this point, if I want, and I do, so in this case, let me get my equation drawn in. And I do my second graph to get my chart. And I need -2 in the middle. So first thing I notice is -2, 1. Okay, that's right. That's a good thing. So I've got -3 and -4. And I've got -1 and 0. Because again, I don't want to skip any numbers. Now I'm just going to start jotting them in. So 0 is -7. -1 is -1. I've already got my vertex. And again, I know I've done it right when I fill in my chart and I see the same numbers as I work my way out. Because then I can just go ahead and plot all of them. Left 4 and down 7. Left 3 and down 1. Left 2 and up 1, and that's my vertex. Left 1 and down 1. And 0, -7. And I draw that in. So again, that's just kind of some review of what we've been, the first thing we were doing in these, where we actually were figuring out that B and then working our way that way. But again, make sure to name our vertex. Now I'm going to jump around for a minute. So let me head over to the back of this sheet. again, this is what was being asked about earlier. You know, what about trying to find the min or the max? Well, we're going to do that in this next section. So we're back into vertex form like we were doing yesterday. Here, right, remember my vertex is always going to be the opposite of what's in the parentheses with x. So it says -2, so I'm going to use 2. And then keep what's on the outside as my y. So my vertex is going to be at 2, 3. Okay, so I'll put a dot right there. And again, this one makes life really easy on us. Because by having the vertex already, I can go straight to the calculator, move it over here, clear this out. I've got -2 x minus 2 squared plus 3. I just make sure it's typed in right. Looks good. My graph, and I need the 2 to be in the middle. Because then again, I see the symmetry. 1 and 1, -5 and -5, -15 and -15. So I can fill those values in my chart. So let's see, 3 is at 1, 4 is at -5, 1 is at 1, 0 is at -5. So down 5, right 1, up 1. I've already got my vertex. Right 3 and up 1. And right 4 and down 5. There's my V shape. Upside down this time. Right. Sketch the graph, and then it's a maximum because my vertex is at the top. And again, read carefully on these. I'm going to put the instructions the exact same way tomorrow in the quiz. Not going to change anything around.
So basically this is what we were doing yesterday, right?
Right now, right, on this
Adding
part.
the max or min above.
Correct, on this sheet, yep. So, let's see here. Let's find a positive to play with. Okay, let's move down to 8 here. Move around a little bit. Again, I can steal my vertex straight from here, switch the sign, keep the sign. This one's going to be? I think so. So 2, 1. And again, if some of you even wanted to go and you're like, do I have to put the chart? No. If you've got your vertex, and you go ahead and you get this one into y equals, and you go, okay, so x minus 2 squared plus 1, and go to my table, as long as 2 is in the middle, I see the symmetry, okay? The numbers above and below should continue to keep being the same all the way out. So if I've already got that, I can just start plotting the other ones. So I see 1, 2, so right 1 and up 2. I see 3, 2, which is right 3 and up 2. Again, those are the 2 I plotted. And I just keep plotting them until I run out of room. So right 4 and up 5, and going up the other way, I've got left 0 and up 5, and those are the only ones that'll fit. But there again, there's my V shape. I'm going to make it a little more of a U. And then as Eric had mentioned at the beginning, since my vertex is at the bottom this time, that's going to be a minimum value. You're like, now what's this whole thing with max and min? Used a lot in businesses to see, you know, what's the minimum number of orders I need to break even, or if with maximum, you know, what's a possibility of the maximum amount of money I'm going to have to spend to get this project done. You can turn a lot of things in business into these different types of shapes and actually figure out, you know, costs and things. So, again, I'm just bouncing around for a minute here, and then if there's some we want to go back and see some more, we can. Just make sure you get all 3 parts in here. You label your vertex, min or max, and get it sketched in with very specific points. Now, when we get to the next part, it says select the correct graph and tell if the vertex is a max or a min.
So you're basically just solving the problem.
Basically, I think once you know the vertex, you might be able to solve this without even punching anything else in. So let's see. What's my vertex in number 9? -4 and 2. Okay, so let's go around looking at these and see if we can find one that has a vertex at -4, 2. Well, this one looks like it has a vertex at 1, -2. Okay. Oh, I'm hearing in big bunches at C. -4, 2. I agree. It's C, but is my vertex a max or a min in C? It's a max. Oh, these are going to be good quiz scores. Like, yes. Yes, they are. Even you're confident. All right. So, what about 10? What's my vertex? -4, -1. We don't even need to know. We know this. Left 4 and down 1. Yep, there's my vertex, so that matches up. This one's opening up, so it's a minimum. Nice. Let's see, what else have I thrown? Oh yeah, there's going to be a bonus section here on the back that we're going to write in. Like what? Okay, back here, strictly finding the vertex. Okay, so back here, no graphing, just making sure we can find a vertex, okay? So my A is 2, my B is 4, then I just plug it in here. -b over 2a. My x is -1. If you really wanted to plug this into the calculator, you could, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. Plug in my -1 where the x is at. You can. Sure. Well, yeah, you're still going to turn it in sometime, but yeah, you always can turn things in. So I'll just double check here quick. Yep, and that's going to be 1. So my vertex is at -1, 1. And that's how these would work down here. Just basically, it's like the first step of what we were doing on the first page. Here's the last thing I'm going to ask you about, because there's going to be a little thing at the end that I didn't put on here. Okay, we're going to determine whether the graph opens up or down without use of a calculator. So our last two problems are actually going to get added in here right now. Now, here's how this will end up working tomorrow, because some of you are like, determine whether it opens up or down without a calculator. Well, shoot, all I'll do tomorrow is I'll type this in on the calculator, I'll hit the button, and I'll watch, and I'll write up or down. No, because the last part of the quiz tomorrow, when you've turned your regular one in, you're going to get a little slip back, and I'm going to be watching to make sure your calculator's put away before you do it. But again, it's simple. The idea is simple. If my A value is positive, it opens up. If my A value is negative, it opens down. What's that? It's true. So in 15, which direction is it opening? up because my A is positive. It opens up. Okay, simple enough. Okay. What about 16?
Down.
Okay. My A is -1. It's going to be down. Okay. That's basically all you've got going on this quiz tomorrow. Great chance to get big bumps in scores here because it's going to set up the same way. There's going to be 16 questions. I'm going to have the same number in each category. I'm going to have the same directions. The only thing I'm changing around is numbers. So I would say to take some time here and just finish this off. And some of you, you know, I've gotten a couple of the papers, but not others. Maybe finish a couple others off. Maybe you're like, oh, I get this now, and kind of see how that's going. Or if there's a couple on here even you want me to go ahead and do, I'll do those for you too. But that's what we are up to the rest of our time today. And then Friday, we will be starting, I won't call it a new unit because it's basically adding on to this, but we're going to be doing absolute value graphs. So we're not going to be seeing as much open down. Everything's going to open up, 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 up. So, all right, quiz tomorrow.